They would rather go with somebody that has cash, because they'll give them the cash, they give them the key. No long process. Buying an apartment or buying a flat or buying a house in Germany, especially as a black person, let's talk about it. For your child, will your child be the only or the first black kid at the school? Hi everyone, welcome back here. This is actually a highly requested video, but I've been going through a lot. If you saw my last video, you know that I'm just coming back from a lot and I'm just trying to pick myself up. So now it's time for me to spill the tea. Are you ready? Buying an apartment or buying a flat or buying a house in Germany, especially as a black person, let's talk about it. If you want to do this, there are some key things you need to consider if this is a step that you like to take. We all know, especially in Berlin, getting an apartment is a tussle. Like, it is really tough, and it's really because it's one of the very few sector, or renting an apartment, I mean, is one of the very few sector that is not regulated. I wouldn't say it's really regulated by the government, so the renters can like choose to do whatever it is they want to do. So it's not really regulated, so it's really tough for people to get accommodation. However, the longer you stay in a place, the more you begin to think if you want to deepen your roots, if you want to stay longer. So one of the questions to ask if you are thinking about buying an apartment is, how long do you want to stay? And if you want to stay longer, if it's for a very long time, because for some people, maybe coming to Germany is just a means to an end. Maybe they are just transiting to another country or to another place, or so depending on the reason why you want to buy, or depending on the reason why you're living in Germany, would go a long way in helping you to decide if you should go for renting an apartment or you should go for buying an accommodation. Like for somewhere that I know, let's not mention the name of the country, they cannot really scam you in Germany where apartment buying is concerned, because it is so controlled by the government, so controlled by the government. So and also to increase your portfolio, you might want to look into buying apartments or buying flats or buying a house and all that. Lastly, you have to look for a financier. You have to sit down with someone who is involved in financing mortgages. You need to sit down to know how much you can get as a mortgage based on your salary, based on how much you're earning as a family, which will also determine how much you'll be paying on a monthly basis. So before you go looking for an accommodation or a flat to buy, you need to know how much your salary can carry. That's really important. That's the first step to take, to say, okay, this is what I want to do, but how much can my salary carry? Except you have the big cash of 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 euros, 700,000 euros. You are most likely going to be approaching the bank to get a mortgage loan, right? So you need someone to sit down with. There are quite a lot, and so the person then determines, okay, you can go between the ranges of maybe 300,000 to 500,000. Don't go beyond 500,000 and the likes. Another thing to also consider is location. Location is very important. The price of apartments in Berlin is definitely going to be different from the one in, let's say, Dresden. Definitely going to be different from the one in Stuttgart. So location is really important. And even within Berlin, the middle of Berlin, the price, it do normally different from the price of outskirts. So you need to know what you need to know, how much you need to. So, and for some people, they would say they don't want to go beyond the central, and it's fine, it's understandable. For some people, they don't want to go beyond the central because people of color, you have a lot to consider. Apart from the fact that Berlin is actually a city, even beyond the center, it's still a city. There are some states that once you move beyond the center, you're already in the bush. you are already in the bush. In places like that, you could get apartments that are cheaper compared to in the center, but you also have a lot to consider, especially as a black person. Will you see somebody that looks like you around? Will you see somebody that speaks English? If you enter shops, will they be able to interact with you in English? I don't, yeah, so those are the things. And also for your child, will your child be the only or the first black kid at the school? Does it have its advantage and disadvantages? You need to consider all that, especially if you're someone that is planning to raise a family. So those are the things that you have to consider. You have to consider, especially if you are buying to live in the apartment. So once those are out of the way, you already like stated the location you want, how much you're willing to invest, and all that and all that. Then I'm going to give you the step-by-step process of how it goes, so that you know, wait, it's not a I got the apartment today, let's move in next week. It's a long process. So let's go. So firstly, once you're able to determine the location that you want, then you start searching. There are quite a number, not so much compared to if you're renting an apartment. There are quite a number of places that you can get apartments to buy. The most popular one being Immobilien Scout 24, Immobilien Scout 24. Filter to choose the location that you want, how much you want, how many rooms, the size, and all that. So once you're able to filter, if you want a breakdown of how this is done, I could do like a short video and something like that, but I didn't prepare to do that. I would have done that. So once you're able to filter, then you can set a notification to say once an apartment or a house, whatever it is available around this area, please notify me. Maybe you can say 5 kilometers around the center or 20 kilometers around the center, just to notify you, because that's where you are looking at. Once you get a notification that an apartment is available for viewing or for buying, you have to be fast about it. Like, you have, even though it's not as rigorous as renting an apartment in Germany, you still have to be fast about it, because you already have your financier, and so you approach maybe you send the link to your financier to say, oh, I like this apartment, and he says, okay, go ahead and go and view. What you see sometimes is not what you get. When you get there, that's when you see that maybe the rooms are not as big as they showed you to be. Sometimes the buildings are not as neat as what they showed you to be. So viewing is really, really important. You need to go there to see with your eyes, to say, okay, I like this place, or no, not so much. You need to know, because like I said, especially if you're going to be buying for living in, it's really, really important. Living conditions and the state of apartment is really, really important. Sometimes you might get to an apartment and it's half finished, like there's still one area that has not been completed because money are finished and the investor is not interested in finishing the apartment. So it's you that will come after paying some deposits. You still have to like renovate the place. So for some people it works well, because they are able to bargain with the seller to say, okay, if I'm still going to be renovating this house, then you have to cut down the price, or maybe you have to pay me back 20,000 or 10,000 euros, because I'm going to still invest in renovating the apartment. So once you and the seller have gotten to a conclusion, you then, and bear in mind that if you're buying from an agent, for instance, it's an agent, mostly agents will usually upload the apartments on the app that you get to search for the apartment most times. However, there are rare cases where owners of apartments upload their apartments to the app to say, I want to sell my apartment. But the difference is that for people that are individuals, they don't get to charge the agency fee, but for people that buy from agents, they get to pay a certain percentage. Is it 3.18% or I think 2.17% or so of the amount to the agent that is selling the apartment. So the agent is the one in charge of renovation and all that. But if you are lucky to be able to get an apartment from someone who is an individual, who is putting out his or her apartment to sell, then that charges, which is about, maybe depending on how much the apartment is going for, that money goes to you. You don't have to spend that money, right? So Yeah, once you and the seller comes to an agreement to say, okay, I'll sell you this apartment, you then go ahead to your financier or the agent in charge of financing. The person would have spoken to maybe various banks to say, I have a client who is interested in a mortgage loan, and this is the person's salary, this is the salary for the family, this is what they are willing to buy and all that. And then the bank start processing the loan. Please bear in mind that you would have to bring a certain percentage, you have to contribute a certain percentage of the mortgage. The bank would not finance the totality of the mortgage. And there are also other expenses which we will talk about in the next few minutes. There are other expenses, so you're going to be considering the whole expenses. The apartment fees, let's say the apartment is going for, let's say, 550,000. You are also going to put it into consideration. If you are buying from an agent, maybe 2%, you're going to add it to that amount. And then there are other fees that follows. Lawyer, like I said, there are the buying an apartment in Germany is really controlled. So there are other land registrations that you have to do. You also have to consider that. So let's say from that 550 that you're buying the apartment, all the other expenses, let's say it comes to 75,000 euros. You then add it. So you are looking for 625,000 euros. That is how much you are looking for. So out of that 625,000 euros, they are going to ask you, how much do you have? If you say you have 25,000, they'll consider if it is okay with them. If you say, but the higher you have, the more you have, the better for you, and the less your repayment is going to be, So once the bank is able to book your loan, it might take a while, it might take 2 months, 3 months. Once they're able to process your loan, that is not the end, that is just the beginning. So they then give your lawyer the go ahead to say, okay, you can then start processing the land registration and all that. Then that goes through the government. That could take like 3 months, 2 months, 8 weeks to process, depending on the time. If it's during summer that everybody have gone on vacation, you will wait. Or if it's during COVID or flu season that people are sick and not many people are on seats, you still have to wait. So like I said, the process is really controlled by the government. So once the loan has been booked from the bank side, it then goes to the lawyer side, the legal side. You meet with the lawyer in charge. Most likely it's usually from the agent or the seller. You can also propose your own lawyer if you already have somebody that is in charge of your law and all that, but the person has to be versed in property management and all that. Then you go there with the seller and then you sign the documents, and then the processing for the legal side starts. And then, yeah, like I said, it could take 3 months, 8 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on how fast it could go. But there's no influencing. You still have to wait it out. You have to wait it out. There's nothing you can do about it. So once that is done, that is finalized, that is when you can then have your keys. That is when you can then have your keys, and then you can start talking about moving into your new apartment. So that's it. It will take between 4 to 5 to 6 months, depending on how fast or how slow the process is. That's why I said that the first thing you need to consider is the financing, so that the person that will be in charge of the financing has already spoken to the bank. It's not when you get the apartment that is when you now be looking for a financer, because there will be plenty people on the line, like you now, that you want to approach the bank for money. There are some people that have the cash. Some people already have the cash, 400,000. They want to drop it, and the seller sometimes they'll rather go with somebody that has cash, because they'll give them the cash, they give them the key, no long process, than for you that want to approach the bank. So your bank document has to be intact before you start searching for an apartment, so that immediately you receive a go ahead from the seller, it doesn't take so much time for the bank to finalize your papers. So it's just left for the legal process to commence, So yeah, I think I've been able to break it down. It's kind of complex and it's so annoying, could be so agitating, the process, but yeah, Let me know if you have more questions. I'm willing to answer. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Ciao ciao, bye.